Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, please subscribe. So today's video, as you can see by the title, is going to be my September monthly wrap-up. So this month I read a total of 10 books, but I'm gonna count it as 10 and a half because I'm currently reading one that I started at the end of September, and I'm not quite done, but I'm like halfway. So yeah, we'll say 10 and a half books for September, which is pretty good. So I'm gonna start with a book that I'm not completely finished yet, which is Things I Should Have Said by Jamie Lynn Spears. I, so far, am really loving this. This came out in January, I think, of 2022. Yeah. And I remember seeing it in the bookstore at that time, and I didn't pick it up, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I remembered it last time I was in the bookstore, and I was like, you know what? I'm still interested in that. So I went and I picked it up, and I'm really liking it so far. And I know there's like a lot of like, this might be controversial because there's so many like mixed opinions on Jamie Lynn Spears. I know there's like a lot of hate towards her for different things, but I'm a believer on like understanding that there is so many different sides to a story. So, you know, I was a big fan of her growing up. I watched Zoe 101 all the time and I loved it. If you're familiar with all like the drama with her and like her family members and her friends or whatever, past co-workers, like she was kind of deemed as like the bully or whatever, and I just thought this would be really interesting to kind of get her perspective on it. So I'm really glad I picked it up because I'm really liking it so far, and it's really interesting to see where she's coming from, like with everything going on. So yeah, don't have a rating for it yet, but it's probably going to be high because I'm really liking it. So the first book that I started and finished in the month of September was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I was really excited to read this because I was under the impression that it was a lot of people's like favorites. It was a lot of people's favorite coho book. I personally wasn't a huge fan of it. I rated it a 3.5 star. I just was feeling like this whole thing was so sucking the life out of me. Like I for sure thought this was gonna put me in a slump. However, the next book that I'm gonna talk about is kind of like right away I was fine. But this, I was so afraid. I'm like, this is gonna put me in a slump. I had to force myself to read this because I was just like not enjoying it. Like I just feel like it was such a long, sad read. I don't know. I just was not really invested in this. The characters weren't like particularly like interesting to me, but the plot twist was, it did get me. I was like, damn, I did not see it coming, and it made me so sad. So that was like really good. But besides the plot twist, I really wasn't a fan of well, it was a good plot, but I don't know, the way it was written, I was just getting really bored, unfortunately. But yeah, 3 out of 5. So next I read Finding Perfect by Colleen Hoover, which is a novella, and this ends off the Hopeless series. This is what saved me from going into a slump, as I talked about before. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. Like, I just think that considering how short it was and how quickly it got me intrigued, like I read this obviously in one sitting, like I'm sure that's how you would read it, but really quickly. Like not once did I want to take a break from it. Like I wanted to get through this because it was just so interesting. Every chapter I was hooked. I wanted to like know what was going to happen next. And I just think that considering like, I feel like I went through a whole story, like a whole roller coaster of emotions in like 90 something pages, I think. 83 pages. And I just feel like I got so much from this. Now, the reason I give it a 4.5 instead of a 5 is just because of the cringe factors. There were just a couple. If you read Coho, you know, she does this. Some of her characters are just cringe. Like it's cute, but it's not something someone would say in real life. And if someone did say that to you in real life, you would cringe. I cringed. So that 0.5 was lost because of that. But besides that, I love this novella. It was so good. I think it ended off the Hopeless series so well. Oh, I loved it. If you don't know how this ties into the Hopeless series, it's Hopeless, Losing Hope, Finding Cinderella, All Your Perfects, and then Finding Perfect. So this actually ties in All Your Perfects to the Hopeless series, if you didn't know. So definitely read it like that. That's, I think, the best way to enjoy it the most and understand everything in that little universe. But anyway, yeah, that was the second book of September. So next we have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, which I gave a 5 out of 5. Oh, I loved everything about this book. I loved the characters. I loved the development. If you don't know, it's kind of like enemies to lovers trope, and I'm not particularly a fan of that trope, but it was fun in here. I really liked the banter, and I liked just how nice the development kind of progressed. Like, it wasn't like an overnight thing. It just seemed so gradual and so like genuine. It was so good, and it was so funny. I just pictured this as a whole movie in my head. You know what? It kind of reminded me of Blended, that movie Blended with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. It's different, but kind of the same vibes. If you haven't seen that and you've read this, definitely watch it because it gives off these vibes so much. But oh my gosh, this book was so good. So basically it's Olive and Ethan, and I believe it's Ethan is the brother of Olive's sister's husband. So yeah, and they're both enemies, and basically they go to the wedding of Olive's sister and Ethan's brother, and they're the only two who don't eat from the catering, and like everyone gets sick except for them. So Olive's sister wants her to take the honeymoon, and then the brother of Ethan wants him to take the honeymoon, so they go on the honeymoon together, and you know, enemies to lovers. Like, what do you think really happens? I'm not gonna spoil anything. There's a lot of things thrown at you in this book, but oh my god, it's just so funny, and it's so, oh, it was just so good. I'm definitely gonna be reading this book again. I loved it. 5 out of 5. Sorry, I was a little bit speechless. This book just fries my brain. This is my new favorite book, and if you know it, if you've read it, you're not gonna be surprised because it's very popular. I've never heard one bad thing about this book. I gave this an easy 5 out of 5. You know what? Scratch that. 6 out of 5. It's so good. And if you haven't read it, please read it. Oh my god. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Favorite book, hands down. Oh my god. I can't even explain my love for this book. Oh my god. It was just so good. Like, I knew this was really popular and it was on my TBR. I had the physical copy for a while before reading it. I knew that everyone like was into it. I went into it with like a general idea. I knew that obviously she had 7 husbands, and I knew that like each section of the story was like for a husband. And I like, if you don't know, it like takes place in the present, where Evelyn Hugo seeks out a writer by the name of Monique, I believe. I just want to make sure. Yep, Monique Grant. She wants her to write like her biography or whatever. But the story that you're getting is like her telling Monique all of this. And then, no spoilers, but you kind of figure out why Evelyn Hugo seeked out Monique specifically. And just the way that the stories align, oh my gosh. I didn't see the plot twist coming. I didn't. I was trying to figure out what it would be because I knew one was coming, and I couldn't figure it out. And when I read it, I was like, I never would have guessed. So good. I cried. This is the first book that made me like actually sob. I cried 3 times. If you've read this, you probably know which 3 times I cried at. But no, I literally was sitting on the couch reading this, crying, because it was just so emotion evoking. It was so good. If you've not read this yet, please read it. It's so good. So obviously following the 7 Husbands, Daisy Jones and the Six was next. This one was also really good. Personally, I loved Evelyn Hugo more than this. I don't know if that's a popular opinion because I know a lot of people love this, which I did too. I rated it a 5 out of 5 as well. But Evelyn Hugo is like all-time favorite. But this was so good. This was so easy to get to. It's like an interview style. So like if you're one of those people who enjoy like dialogue, this is literally perfect for you. This whole book is just dialogue. So yeah, these Taylor Jenkins Reid books were on my TBR for so long, so I'm so glad I finally got to them. So now I can like really be a part of the hype, like, and I can recommend these to other people. So I'm just so glad I can finally share the love for these books. And speaking of sharing the love, if you don't mind hitting that like button, that would really help me out. Anyway, next book. So the last couple 5-star ratings I read this month were Heartstopper Volume 3 and 4. So I knew they were really popular, so I really was like wanting to get into them, but then as soon as I noticed that they weren't novels, I was like, But I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just do it anyway. So I read all 4 that are out. I believe there's a 5th one coming. And the first one I read, I was like, to me it was like really predictable and like kind of like just kind of cringe. It just had like that like cringy romance to it, you know what I mean? Like it seemed more bookish than like authentic or whatever. So the first one I was kind of like, it was just so predictable, and I was like, oh, you know, these are like a lot of money, and I just feel like the story went by so quick and like I didn't really get anything out of it. But then I was like, everyone raves about it, so I want to maybe try again. So I got the second one and I was like, okay, like there's a little bit more of a plot to this. And then I was really enjoying it. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm halfway through. I'm going to finish it. So I got 3 and 4. And I really liked them. They dove into important mental health related topics, and I'm personally really into psychology and stuff. So I was really happy to see that these books kind of included stuff like that. Not in a lighthearted way, but in a way that like young readers can read about without maybe being triggered or traumatized. Yeah, I really, really liked where this went. And I also watched the Netflix show, which was like, I think it's based on volumes 1 and 2. And that was very true to the books too. So I really liked watching that. I love Nick and Charlie. They're literally so cute. And I love so many of these characters. Like, yeah, honestly, as this series grew, I just like fell in love with it more. And I know that there are like novellas and stuff for this series. I'm personally probably not going to dig that much into the series. I'm just gonna probably stick with the standard Heartstoppers. But yeah, they were really good. I really liked them. I like these ones a lot better than 1 and 2. So that was awesome. Both 5 stars. Next one was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was sure that this was going to be a 5 out of 5 for me because I loved Evelyn Hugo and I loved Daisy Jones, and this is like in the same universe. It's just in a different part of the timeline. I was like, I'm gonna love this because I loved the other 2. Both of them were 5-star reads, as I said before. This one, unfortunately, I did like it, and I liked the characters so much. I loved all of them. They were all very different in their own ways. It was a good read. I just felt like it was dragged on a lot, and I think a lot of that is because this whole story is in the span of like 24 hours, and it's kind of like the one setting. Like you don't get much of like different settings and different time zones and development. Like a lot happens in 24 hours, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a hefty book, but I think that's kind of what my problem was. I just like, even though I loved the characters and I loved what happened in that 24 hours, like it was very intriguing to me, I felt like I couldn't read this book all at once because I was just kind of getting bored. I'd literally have to read a few chapters and then put it down and go back to it later, just because it felt so long to me and so dry because we didn't get you know, different settings. And like I said, it was one night, so. But it was good overall, to be honest. You know, I could say it's a 4 out of 5 or even a 3.5 out of 5. Somewhere around there. It was really good. It's just, it wasn't, I don't know. A 5-star read to me is just one that like I absolutely love and I'll keep thinking about. I won't forget. I love the characters. I'll recommend, but this just didn't reach up there quite, so. But it was still a good book, so. This next book I have a lot to say about, and it might be really controversial because I watched some other reviews on this book and most people seem to really like it. I personally just didn't. I gave this next book a 1.5 out of 5, and that was I Kissed Shara Wheeler. I don't know about anybody else who's read this, but I read it the whole way through as Sarah Wheeler. I knew it wasn't Sarah, but like it just seemed more natural to me. So whatever, if I accidentally say Sarah, I'm sorry, but it's Shara, I think. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this book. So I want to start off by saying I didn't give it a 1.5 because it's a bad book. When I rate things, I rate them kind of as I was explaining earlier, based on like my liking, you know what I mean? Like if I give something a 1 out of 5, I'm not saying in general it's a bad book. I'm just saying it doesn't fit with my personal preferences of like what a good book would be. So this one is not a bad book in general. I just did not like it, and I'm going to explain why. I want to say this gave me like Looking for Alaska by John Green vibes, which I like that book, but I just feel like this was like really cringy. And I think that because I've read Looking for Alaska, to me it was just kind of like, you know, when Every Summer After by Carly Fortune came out and everyone's like, that seems a lot like Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. That was like how I felt about this with like Looking for Alaska. Because John Green, some of his books, like I think Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns mainly, seem a little cringeworthy to me. And this was like that, but cringier. So I think that personally, I'm just like not in the age bracket to be reading this. Like I'm 21, and I feel like if I was 13 reading this, I probably would have liked it a lot more and been a lot less cringed out. So I think that maybe if you're in that age group, this book might be more appealing to you. I just think at 21, it just seemed a little bit more immature to me. You know what I mean? It didn't seem as like grown up, I guess. And also I didn't love Chloe, Chloe Green, who is the protagonist. I didn't really love her, to be honest. I just feel like her character was kind of like trying to be everything. Like she was known as the troublemaker with the principal. Like she was like, you know, oh, I'm always in the principal's office. Like, oh yeah, like I go there and I put my feet up on his desk type thing. You know what I mean? Just, you know, I live in the principal's office. But then she was also fighting to be valedictorian. She had great grades and she was trying so hard to be valedictorian. So I just found it really weird to see a character who's the school troublemaker as well as like trying to be the best of the best at school. And some people might look at that as like a refreshing, different take. To me, that was just confusing and like really contradicting, and it was weird. I also didn't like how Chloe's relationship with Shara was like 1 minute, oh my God, she's so annoying, I literally hate her. And then literally the next minute, oh my God, like I have to know this girl, who is she? And like to me, that was just like, it was cringing me out because it went through the whole book and I was like, ugh. And then Shara as a character as well kind of cringed me out. I don't know, I feel sad about this because I saw this and I try to remind myself, don't judge a book by its cover, but I saw this cover and it's so pretty. Oh my God, this cover is so pretty. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get that book. And I read the little thingy on the, not on the back, in the front. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty interesting. But no, it's not something I will read again. But it's not a bad book. This is definitely something that might be appealing to other people, maybe even, like I said, like younger people. But yeah, to me, it was not the best, unfortunately, which sucks because I was really excited to read this and it was just a disappointment. And this one, it took a while to get through because I just was not enjoying it. The last book that I read in September, which I'm so excited to finally say I read because I've been wanting to read this for so long. Everyone's way past this and on to the next book by this author. I'm just finishing the first. It's The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I'm so glad I finally got through this. Oh my gosh, I wanted to get through this for so long. And I also recently purchased Love on the Brain, which is actually going to be included in a book haul that I'm posting soon after this, so be on the lookout for that. This was so good. I loved it. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if everyone's going to love this, but I rated it a 3.5 out of 5. Most people seem to rate this a 5 out of 5, which I totally understand. It's so good. But for me personally, I just feel like, I don't know. Like, in a way, Olive kind of, to me, seemed a little bit of like a pick-me. Like, she would say something and she was like, never mind, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, sorry. And I'm like, girl, literally stop. Anyway, it was good though. Like, I loved it from cover to cover. I would read this again. I might read this again eventually. Yeah, I just feel like it might have been the characters that kind of threw me off. You know, I feel like we didn't get a lot from Adam in most of the story, and then Olive just seemed like a little bit pick-me to me, but I did like the storyline. I liked the ending. I liked, I don't know if you'd call this a plot twist. Well, I guess it was a bit of a plot twist. It wasn't major, but it kind of was. I liked it. It was good. 3.5 out of 5 just because I didn't feel a strong connection for the characters, and there was no part of this that I was like, whoa, or like crying, you know what I mean? It didn't spark any crazy emotion in me, but I'm so glad that I finally read this. I really did like it. I will recommend this to people, and I'm so excited to read Love on the Brain. Okay, you guys, so this is my September wrap-up stack. I'm so excited I got through most of these because a lot of them were on my TBR, so that is very exciting to me. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your opinions were. Please feel free to leave a like on this video and a comment if you'd like any book recommendations, or if you want to discuss any of these books, that'd be great. Follow my Bookstagram, which is going to be linked in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.